intellectual relations to one institution. So this is a first. Who's doing a whole lot more than he's supposed to. So I was 31 years old, and so I wrote a book that titled Three Approaches to Study African Society. Nonetheless, I pushed on, and upon completing the book, it was very well received by the younger anthropologists all over. And the older anthropologists were basically, they were offended. They said, this is your first degree, your first PhD dissertation. You can't hope to achieve all of that in one dissertation, So in any case, it was published and it was very well received in Europe and in Africa as well. So let me tell you a little about the three methods, three approaches that I applied to Gadaa. One is the American empirical method, which is basically observational, quantitative, demographic, and ecological. So all of that is part and parcel of the American method. They're not really interested in cognitive systems, what people think about their culture, how people organize their society using cognitive principles as a basis. That's not their game. Their game is simply looking at humans as if they're animals. So when you're studying animals, how do you go about studying them? You observe their behavior minutely. And through observation, you discover how social structure, for instance, the primates, chimps, and other primates have real organization. They have a hierarchy. The alpha male completely dominates the community, is in control of all the females. He alone breeds the next generation of rapes. So they have social structure, they have hierarchy, they have organization, and all of that can be understood using only observational methods. So observation clearly is if done systematically, can be a very powerful method. So in my studies, I've done several studies that are in this tradition. I did ecological research on the Boran of Kenya in 1973-74. There was a huge drought, as you remember, that devastated Woro, that devastated the whole of the Sahelian zone of Africa. It was a horrible experience. And so I did an intensive study of the drought and how Boran survived the drought. And I will show you a picture of one plant that was absolutely essential for their survival. It is called safarra. It's this plant here. It is a big root that is about 2.5 feet long. The plant itself is a few inches high. Looks like nothing. It has 3 tiny leaves. You hardly think there's anything of consequence with this plant. But then you dig the root and take out the root, and it is this thick in diameter and about a meter in length. Anybody who can locate this plant will not die of thirst or hunger. So knowledge is absolutely critical for people's survival. When the people of Woro died, the people of Woro had not experienced much famine in their history because their land is highly productive. It's like Juma, highly productive. And so there's no reason for them to know a lot about survival techniques and about famine foods. But for pastoralists who experience famine every decade there's going to be one big famine, and they have to be able to survive. And I lived among a Gadaa community in Marsabit when the 1973-74 famine was raging. It was at its peak. And the family that I was living with is named Ali Doti, and he's the grandson of a very famous government chief called Gadaa. And I saw him doing something quite amazing. He practices triage. Triage is the technique that is used by people to decide under circumstances, to decide who's going to survive and who cannot. If you can't save everybody, you have to allow some people to die. And essentially, Alidoti thinks exactly that way. So when the drought became very intense, his cattle were dying, his sheep were dying. Next to that, the camels and the goats were also in the process of dying. So he decided the cattle not survive, so he let them die. So then he said he has to protect what he's got left. So he focused on the goats. The camels are fairly hardy, but he focused on the goats. And so he collects the fara, the plant that I showed you earlier on, collects that half a dozen of those, and piles the food on a big plate, big barrel, really, cut barrel, there. His wife sits by the barrel, and he stands in front of it with a very long stick. And his son lets the goats loose. Now, the goats can smell the safara from a distance. They know that there's food in front of them, so they rush toward Ali. And Ali, with his great stick, beats them mercilessly, absolutely. Only the goat that breaks through will be fed. This is strictly Darwinian selection. You know, it's brilliant. Nobody has designed this method of selection. And because of that, Borana cattle, Borana goats are reputed to be the best in Eastern Africa, because they've been selectively bred. Selective breeding in Borana means not breeding an ox, a bull, a selected bull to breed with your herd, which dilutes the genetic material. No, what they do is something entirely different. It's Darwinian selection. So they know the lineages of their cattle. You know, Yezer Hareg. For each group of cattle, and they study them, observe them, see how well they do under drought conditions, how well they do in terms of resisting infections. Do they have twins or not? Are the cows sometimes kick their calves to death? They do that because odor is an important part of the mother cow accepting the calf. If the calf doesn't smell right, it'll kick it to death. So that happens quite often. So when that happens, they take the calf away and have it adopted by another cow. So now, the bad lineage is they decide to destroy them, the entire lineage. They slaughter them, they take them to the market and sell them, and they only sell them to their enemies, not their friends. Because this is bad genetic material. But this is a very effective method of selective breeding. And because of that, Boran cattle are the choice cattle used to breed with exotic animals imported from Holland and Britain. Holstein from Holland. That was done in RC. In RC they had, when I was a young man, SIDA, the Swedish Development Agency, came and actually started breeding Holstein cattle, crossbreeding them with what? With Boran cattle. They knew that Boran cattle are already highly selected, so the best cattle to breed them with is Boran cattle. So here is an example in which knowledge makes a difference to survival. Knowledge makes a difference to the success of their livestock breeding practices, and in many, many other ways as well. So indigenous knowledge is a wealth that has to be understood, documented, and preserved, because it is really hot. You're going to have to know. So much for the American tradition. It really is quite broad and very pragmatic. It's practical. It leads toward development programs. It leads toward survival strategies, and so on. The second method is the French structuralist method. The French are not concerned with practical matters, but they are concerned about human thought. So what they do is cognitive research. How do people organize themselves? And what are the taxonomic or classificatory systems that they have in their mind in organizing themselves this way? Look at the British Parliament. How is it organized? Lords and Commons. It's literally, it comes straight out of their freedom past. So most other societies have left and right. Left and right may be socialist and conservative. Not for the British. It's up and down. The upper house are the lords, and they are there by right. The lower house is the rest. And so the way people classify themselves has serious consequences for how they organize their institutions. So the cognitive basis of institutions is absolutely an important base. And so I was fascinated by structuralist thought and proceeded to look at Gadaa first and foremost as a cognitive system. So what is it that Oromo have done? What they've done is straightforward. They've used the human life course or life cycle as a basis for creating their institution. It's ingenious. Why not? Why is it that the human life cycle or life course has never been used for the purpose of organizing a democratic political system? The democratic political system that fits all generations equally, which is not what happens in the Western world. The Western world, people in their prime hog power and wealth. And they marginalize the elderly, they marginalize the young. Literally, it's an extremely unjust system. It was so unjust that in the 1960s, when I started my research, there was a revolution in progress by young people and old people allied together. Against who? Against the middle generation, which was hogging all the power and wealth. So old people were sent to old people's homes and forgotten. Young people were sent to they must receive education half their lives. In the meantime, they have no say whatsoever in the political system. And so there was a rebellion, a big rebellion, also a women's rebellion as well, that came at the same time. And the ecology movement, all that, and the civil rights movement, and the independence movement in Africa, all that happened in the 1960s. So if you want to get an understanding of how we got here, how all these great transformations occurred in the 1960s, go back to the 1960s and have a look at what happened. It was revolutionary, but it was on all fronts. And the ecology movement started in 1973, the same year that Murdoch was published. And for the first time, people became conscious of the fact that the environment has to be protected. And if you don't protect it, it will destroy you through pollution, through climate change, through all kinds of problems of that kind. So the way we think impacts how we create our institutions and what we do with those institutions. But the most important thing is social classification. That is to say, people classify themselves in complicated ways, and those classifications have serious consequences. So for the Guarana, what they said is every stage of life is important. So start with Dabele all the way to the Damoji. Each stage of life has a separate function. a separate transition right that tells you when people have gone from one state to the next. Along with that hairstyle, each stage has a different hairstyle. So when I walk into Borana, by looking at a man, I can say what grade he's in. So social classification is really a critical aspect of the way they organize their lives. And it's also, it applies to the entire lifestyle. So from birth until death, people have a position in the social system. People have peers who support them wherever they go. The peers address each other as Jala, which means a friend. And wherever you go, a member of your Luba will give you protection, give you food, will give you shelter. And so there's no way that an individual can be isolated in this society. Isolation, loneliness, is a terrible problem in the Western world, in urban societies. If you don't make an effort to make friends and to Facebook, keep track of your friends and all that, you become alone, basically. You become isolated. So Gadaa is really a method of pegging an individual to his age group, or to his generation group, really. And that Nuba, which is a tight-knit group, remains unitary throughout the human life cycle. But also, throughout your life, you belong to one group, which is your base, the group that protects you. So, social classification has consequences for the way humans behave and how well they organize their lives. So, and the classification system can be quite complex. In other words, there are several dimensions on which you're organized. Gadaa is simply one of them. But you have moieties, the two moieties of Borana, Sabah and Gona. They are equally divided between the two halves of the country. And if you are Sabo, you have to marry Gona. You're going to have to marry Sabo. So they treat half of the society like their sisters, and the other half like their in-laws. So you have to know how to address people by knowing whether they are on your side of the divide or on the other side. And so on. Clans, another method of classification that is very complex. So all that also goes into the way they've organized the system of checks and balances in Gadaa. They have such a system, and I won't be able to discuss it today, but I will in my future presentation. Okay, off to the third method. The third method is the British case method. The British have a peculiar view of the world. They say that people are truthful only when they're fighting. When they are angry and battling it out, they are not aware of whoever is observing them. They are completely focused on each other. And so as a result, they reveal a great deal more about themselves than they would otherwise. So what the British do is when people start fighting, then that is when zero in on the society and they start taking records. Like the crisis that occurred in the Amhara Kaldin recently. Big thing, big event, disastrous event, move people tremendously. Most people become spectators in that kind of situation. They may cry, they may bemoan the fact that this event has happened, but they don't think in terms of documenting what's happening and how people are going to get out from this terrible situation. What the British do is, when people start fighting, they start documenting. And they manage to get information about people that others will not get. It really is a revealing thing that they find. In my case, two events happened when I was doing my field research, both of which were terribly important. One was the election contest in 1963. election contest happened in the second year of my research. The contest was, I mean, brutal. It was, they went at each other with such violence, I couldn't believe it, you know. And so I started documenting all of that. I dropped everything else, went to the Olakalu, which is where people go to get elected. It's the Kalu who oversees the election process. And so I started documenting all of that. So I have a detailed record of the entire contest. And in that, there was one man, which is a kind of a Trumpian figure. His name is Abidida. And he is a hated figure. People really despise him because he's not truthful, he's greedy. When the Gadaa was put under house arrest by the Saddam administration, he wouldn't help them, and so on. And it was just vile. But at the same time, his speech captures people's imagination. So it's a love-hate relationship, if you will. And everybody in Borana told me Ali Leader cannot be elected. No way, not with this history. And he was successful, you know, and they couldn't believe that. But in any case, they said, well, okay, he's elected now, but we're to uproot him at some later stage, after he has led his Luba for a few years. We'll see that his true character will be revealed. And Bukishu is the term they use for removing elected leaders who are unfit. Bukishu or Mura Har Mutagif. They take power away from their hands. So they have impeachment. It's formally institutionalized. It's a legal process. It's not rebellion. It's a perfectly institutionalized method of removing people who are incompetent. Another episode in my life was the eclipse. Why is eclipse important? In my childhood in Asmara, there was an event in which there was a lunar eclipse. And people said the moon, in Tigrinya they say, that's a very dangerous signal. Something terrible is about to happen as a result of that. And so people gathered in the Mariam Betikstian, the big cathedral in Osman, gathered and had collective prayers that were taught for hours. I saw this as a child, so that was engraved in my mind. When they told me that in 1973 there was going to be two solar eclipse, a group of scholars and went off to observe the event. I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't had this experience as a child, that people feel that these unusual astronomical phenomena are ominous events that tell you that something terrible is about to happen. And so I witnessed the solar eclipse, and the eclipse was seen only on the Kenyan side, not on the Ethiopian side. So the Ethiopian Mogoran never saw it. But the Kandu of the Kareyu, the Julius Kandu, was a man who came to power as an adult because his father was killed in conflict with Guji. And so he had committed all kinds of violations of taboo to assume power, and so he's really not fit to become Kanu. But he was, because he was the only son of the dead Kanu, and so they allowed him to do that. But a Kanu has to die with the same hair that he was born with. He shaved his hair many times. He drinks. He's really given to a lot of drinking. Not only that, but he brings arake into the Olakalu, which is a violation of the worst kind. So all of that piled up, and they said, well, this guy has to go. And the implication that he is the reason for all this. And so I finished my research in Kenya, observed the eclipse, which was a beautiful, beautiful sight. And then I came over to Ethiopia to see what's happening. And in the Olokano Karayu, there was turmoil. People were debating what to do with the country. And there was a Raga who said that his days are numbered because he has violated all the taboos of the land, and he should be removed. And the Olokano were very clever. They said, did you see the eclipse? No. Somebody else saw the eclipse from the other side of the border, so it don't affect us. So for that reason, he was safe. But he was really in terrible shape. But on the Kenyan side, there was a chief who was appointed by the colonial government 22 years ago. And 2 days after the eclipse, the elders got together and removed him from power. And I said, aha, just as you told me, you used the eclipse as a way of removing unfaithful leaders. And they said, no, we don't, he's a nice man, we don't say that about him. But they removed him from office, after being in office for 22 years. So they tried to camouflage the fact that he's been held responsible for a great and sad event. But nonetheless, they told him out and appointed another man in his place. So what they're doing is they're using natural signals as a way of removing one class of people. They don't need these symbols to remove the Abagada or the Hindus, because they're elected. People gave them their power, and so people can take their power away. Whereas the Warakalu are not appointed by people, their power comes from God. So you must resort to natural signals to justify the action that you're about to take. 2 methods of removing people from office. So this is the British method of study. A crisis develops. Most of us, when we see a crisis, we become spectators. We're all open mouths, and we see things, but we don't observe anything. We don't document anything. If you're a photographer, if you're not well trained, as the disaster happens, you drop your camera and watch. What you should do is keep your camera going and capture the event. And so this is what I did. The reason why I packed from Osaka to observe the solar eclipse, it was an incredible experience. They went through amazing transformation. To begin with, they told us, how do you know that the eclipse is going to happen? They told them that it was going to happen at 4 o'clock in 1973, or in July of 1973. And they said, well, if you can tell when it's going to happen, you must have brought it about. How would you know? So they distrusted the fact that it's going to happen. Nonetheless, they prepared for it by bringing all the cattle home and locking them in the enclosure, and then getting children, their wives, their children, inside the hut, so barricaded the house, and stayed there for the duration of the eclipse. And the Kenyan government had told them that if you look at the partial eclipse, you go blind. But they just wove that right into the disasters that's associated with the eclipse. They don't realize that it's just seeing the exposed sun that's actually, but it's not part of the disaster that is woven into the eclipse equation. And so for me, this was a magnificent opportunity to study how people behave at a time when an unintelligible astronomic phenomenon occurs. And I think all the events that happened during my research that were the result of some crisis like famine. The famine too was a very important event for me. Two famines. This was before 1984. Both of them I documented in great detail and learned a lot about their survival strategies. So these are the three methods of inquiry that I pursued. And I'd like to give you just a few pictures of what kinds of products you get from these three methods of inquiry. Okay, here's a map of the Oromo Nation, the first map of its kind. There were maps of different portions of this area at different done by different people, but there was no single map of the entire Oromo Nation, which means from Raya up north to Orma, way south, close to the Tanzanian border. It's a huge territory. Notice the fact that it's longer this way than it is this way. East to west is a fairly short distribution. North to south is an extremely long distribution. Why do you think that is? Who can guess? Why is it that Oromo have a much bigger distribution north-south than east-west? Can anybody? Any geographers in the room? Well, it's because the drought belts in Africa go from Senegal to Somalia, across the whole, around the whole Sahelian belt. So when it's drought, it affects that entire region. So when drought hits, if you start traveling east or west, eventually it's serious trouble. You'll still remain within the drought belt. And so what you do is you send half of your herd north, the other half of your herd south, up to 300, 400 kilometers they would travel to escape from the drought. So the reason why the population is stretched like this is because a lot of it is due to response to drought, and therefore migration north or south to escape from the drought. But it's not just that, of course. The Great Migration in the century occurred not just because of drought, but because there was a dynamic within Oromo society that allows them to expand their territory that they've conquered. So I believe in the 16th century there was a big expansion in the population of Oromo. And that the Gadaa institution was created to try and limit the population. Now, a lot of my colleagues distrust that. I mean, they say, no, no population control. People love children, they would have many children around the country. But there was a time when population explosion was really a serious problem, and people utilized a variety of methods of limiting it. One is to postpone the age of marriage, postpone the age at which you can have a son, postpone the age at which you can have a daughter. These are postponed beyond puberty up to 20 years. 20 years beyond poverty. Do that to any modern society, the population will collapse. But Oromo did it in creating the Gadaa system because they were faced with a huge population explosion. So under those circumstances, the population could withstand that level of limitation on their population. Is an aspect of structural analysis. You map out about people's movement, why they move. The Great Migration is still a mystery, great mystery. We don't understand, for instance, how they navigated the rivers across. Partly because the big, ugly crocodiles, 5 meters long, silent killers, they hunt quietly, they suspend themselves in the water with the nose emerging to the surface, and then they turn on their skin. Their skin is very porous, but they have soft patches on their. One drop of water on the edge of the river, and then detect it from there. And their movement under the or where the animal is, and they'll be propelled with their big tail out of the water, catch the person or the animal in their big jaws, go back to the water and spin. It's called the death roll. Spin until you drown, because otherwise you're going to continue to fight against. Down underneath in the bottom of the river, a hiding place for the victim, and wait until it becomes soft. They have no molars; they can't chew food, but they have only canines that bite off big pieces of flesh. They're really a primitive animal, a very angry animal too, and so this is really a threat to human life. And one of the projects I'd like to start here in Jimma, I've been asking where around Jimma there are crocodiles, rivers that have crocodiles. And I'd like to know from this zone and from the Kenya as a whole, from Oromia, how many people get killed by crocodiles and hippos? If it is a significant number, then it's high time that we did something about it. Basically, the project I'd like to propose is siphon off part of the river, create wells some distance away from the river that people can use with their animals. So one part to feed animals, water animals, the other part for humans, for women to go fetch water. So that if successful in one place, transfer that across all of Ethiopia. So in any case, geography, cartography is an important part of structural analysis. So we use mapping as a way of understanding social organization. So do I have? I don't think I have a map of an Olla. I should have had one, but I'm not sure. I don't think you've done it. No, but I have an Olla map in detail. So the genealogy is mapped on the physical map, and as usual, Borana are highly organized the way they settle in villages. So the Angafa builds first, and then everybody else to his left in Angaf 50, in accordance with age. So from the oldest to the youngest, from left to right, the left-hand side. That is looking at the village from outside. And the youngest people are on the right-hand side. So mapping a village can also be a way of understanding the social structure of the village. So mapping is a cognitive exercise which people use as a way of identifying what are the organizational features of society and how do people move on this cognitive map. The Gadaa and his assembly travel throughout the 8 years that they're in power. And they have a whole series of rituals that they have to perform, but they're performed in different places. So people know when the Gadaa reaches this particular ritual, Ardajila, the place of ritual, then they know he's in Gadaa. They have a mental image as well as a temporal image of their social organization. So cartography, mapping is a way of using the structure of community. Came to Ethiopia, and his soldiers can walk on top of the tree trunks, cut off. The word Kella comes from Capito. Kella, because they have a big gate, which they opened for you to come in and trade in Kaffa. And they had a place called Tigre Mandiro. and another place called Amaraman Tigris and everybody else to come and trade, but under the control of the king. So it's very carefully managed system. So Emperor Menelik, so this is a big problem in the history of Horn of Africa. And it 9 years and almost failed, and then he used a strategy to penetrate Kaffa. He sent rain and inside the great position and overthrew the kingdom from within and captured the king. His name was Gati Sorocho, and he was furious at the emperor, so he said another campaign to go capture the crown. So the crown was captured. He had an engineer, Swiss engineer, who told Emperor Menelik, this crown is not safe here, so you better send it to Switzerland. So he put it in a Swiss bank. It remained in a Swiss bank until Emperor had his last, after returning from Tibet in Britain.